Hey everyone, it's Rachel from Sugar Maple Farmhouse, and today I'm going to talk to you about our pumpkin harvest and our fall and Halloween front porch. This is our pumpkin patch. It is right in front of our house. You can actually see it from the road. This is our second or third time growing pumpkins here. I can't really remember. But this is where I like to grow them. So it gives us the most space and we can kind of keep a close eye on them. Right behind the pumpkins is where we have some of our cut flowers. So in that space, there's mostly zinnias. And then this year we had built 2 new raised beds for dahlias just to keep their roots from getting soggy. This particular patch of our yard is soggy. Our farm is pretty low lying and we have a high water table. So anytime we get a lot of rain, we can really get kind of mushy. With the pumpkins this year, I had been really worried about them to start with because we had a ton of rain early in the season. From May and June, like it just rained and rained and rained. So I was really worried about the pumpkins. They did early on start to get some blight, but it seems that they got over that luckily. However, that contributed to the fact that we only had small pumpkins growing in this front field. Even though I put seeds in the ground earlier than ever this year, the blight just really started tampering the plant's growth early in the season, and I had to go in and I cut it out on a lot of the plants, which meant that they just had to do more to produce those longer vines that would produce pumpkins for us. Then later in the season, in August, September, and then into October, it was really dry. We actually have had almost no rain in all of September or October, and I do think we are under an actual drought. Luckily, this past weekend, we got a nice dumping of rain, so I feel like we can actually have a campfire out in our fire pit, which we haven't been able to do at all this season because everything was just so dry. The other thing that contributed to our pumpkins being smaller in this space is that we did not supplement the soil this spring with compost. We had done it last fall, and I thought that that would be good enough, but I think as a rule going forward, we're going to have to supplement every fall and every spring. And we just use our donkey compost and we till it into the soil. Pumpkins are really heavy feeders, so they love growing in compost. In fact, I'm going to show you our pumpkins that we did grow in the compost pile this year because they became huge. So compost, whether you are growing pumpkins in a field or even whether you are growing pumpkins just in a single garden bed in a backyard, compost is really needed to get the best growth out of your pumpkins. Pumpkins are one of the things that I grow that make me the happiest. I love growing pumpkins. I don't know, there's just something about the whimsical shape that really makes me happy. So I love growing them. We've grown them on pumpkin trellises before, but when I want to grow a lot of them like this, I tend to grow them here in this field. I grow our pumpkins mostly as decor. You can eat them, but we typically don't eat these, mainly because most of them are specialty pumpkins. So I really like to save money on our fall decor, especially when it comes to our front porch, by growing our own pumpkins. In previous years, I've actually grown our own broom corn to put on the porch too. I didn't do that this year. I just got a little behind after we lost Naomi this spring and just didn't have kind of the will and heart to get them into the ground while we were dealing with that. But I got all the pumpkins in, and I think that we had a pretty good haul from this little patch, even though they were all mostly small. Now, the pumpkins that are not small were the ones that were growing directly in our compost pile. We did not plant these. We never plant in our compost pile directly, although I'm starting to think we should. These grew from seeds that wound up here either last year or maybe even the year before. But you can see these enormous monster pumpkins we got from the compost pile. These pumpkins are Rouge Vif d'Étampes pumpkins, which are also called Cinderella pumpkins. They are a French pumpkin that is an heirloom seed. I love these pumpkins, so I am so thrilled that they decided to grow here this year, and we got these essentially 2 for the price of 1 because we bought the seeds not this year, but probably a year or 2 ago. I did make Kevin do most of the work when it came to picking these pumpkins because he has taller boots on, and as you can see, he was stepping directly in compost. Not to mention this area was a lot weedier, and usually we will find little critters over here, so I was just like, well, I think you can go pick this pumpkin patch. I will film instead. We did leave some of the pumpkins that had been nibbled on already behind for critters to keep nibbling on, and we broke open one for the deer to eat as well. So we did leave those for kind of our wildlife and our nature and ecosystem here. With any luck, some of those seeds will grow next year here in the compost pile too. Here is our total haul from the front pumpkin patch and all of the pumpkins that we took out of the compost pile. All things considered, I think we made out pretty well. In addition to the pumpkins that we pulled from the pumpkin patch, I also decided that I wanted to put Funkins on our porch railing this year. So I thought this would just be a fun way to bring Halloween in. Typically my front porch is more of a fall decor, but with the kids getting older, they really love Halloween, and I wanted to kind of decorate more for that as well this year. If you saw my last video, then you know that we made kind of a creepy skeleton mirror, and we also made these fun snake wreaths this year. I will leave links to both of those in the description below if you want to go check those out and save them for next season. I just had a lot of fun just enjoying the Halloween decorating this year. However, I will admit that this project with the Funkins, which is a fake pumpkin, was not fun. The reason is because most people recommend using a hot knife to carve the Funkins, which is what I'm using here. I do not recommend this. I cannot say that strongly enough. I do not recommend this. It was a pain in the butt to use. You can see where my fingers are. There is a latch, like if you were shooting a water gun or something, where you'd pull the trigger, there's a latch down there that you have to keep your hand on to get the gun to heat, and that is really difficult. It really just irritated my carpal tunnel, and I was not loving it. The other thing is the blade is too long. It is kind of a pain in the butt to use because it's a little loosey-goosey, and I just did not enjoy the process of using this blade. It also took forever to kind of cut all the way into the Funkins. I've sped this up, I think 3 times for you at this point, so you wouldn't have to sit here and watch me struggle with this thing, but it was really a pain in the butt. The other thing I did not like about this gun is you can see by my thumb there is a temperature control, which I did not realize until after I got done carving this pumpkin here. But once you use the temperature control and you make the knife warmer, you really have the knife kind of burning the material here, and it creates some fumes, it makes the pumpkin smoke, and it just was not a good situation. Again, I do not love this knife. If you are going to do this, I would recommend a different knife. I actually ordered two different ones that came, unfortunately, after I was done with this project. One thing I would recommend if you like to carve these fake kinds of pumpkins is using a Crayola marker to sketch out the face. That's what I did here, and that's what I did on every single one of these that I carved. It served two purposes. One, it allowed me to kind of see the face and what it would look like once it was carved. And two, it also kind of kept me in line so I didn't go all loosey-goosey and go everywhere with my knife. I have found that you cannot use a Crayola marker on a real pumpkin because they're a little bit wet, and the second the marker gets wet, it comes off. But using it on these fake pumpkins works beautifully because once you are done carving out all your pieces, you can take a wet paper towel and wipe off any other spots of the Crayola marker that are still left on your funkin. Once I discovered that I could turn up the temperature on the hot knife, here is what I was dealing with. The last step in carving these was to create two holes in the bottom. I zip tied these to my porch railing, and I will show you that in just a minute here. But these two holes in the bottom were really important for being able to put the zip tie in there and secure the pumpkins to the railing. Just make sure they are big enough that you can get the zip tie through. In most cases, I had to reach in and kind of guide a couple zip ties. I put 3 of them together for these larger pumpkins and pull the zip tie through. So make sure your mouth is large enough for your hands to fit through and that your hole is large enough for you to kind of get your fingers in there and grab the zip ties. These holes that you can see that I'm cutting right now are not big enough. I had to go back and make these a little bigger, especially on this pumpkin because it doesn't have a lot of space around its mouth. So just make sure your holes are big enough and your mouth is large enough to get your hands through too. Here is what the pumpkins look like all on our front porch. So you can see the Funkins are up there and they are very secure. We've actually had, like I mentioned, we had rain and thunderstorms this Sunday and they all stayed on. You can also see our big pumpkins from the field and some of our little pumpkins going up the steps. I wish we had more that had grown larger, but I still think this works for this year, and I absolutely love the way the Funkins turned out on the railing too. Here is a closer look at all their faces. I tried to make them all different so nothing is exactly the same. I made happy ones, angry ones, sad ones, and then I made a kitty and a puppy too because I felt like one, the kids would get a kick out of it, and two, we love our kitties and puppies here, so we needed to have those in the mix too. The Funkins all also have waterproof lights on the inside. You can make them just orange or yellow lights, but my kids love these kind of rainbow blinking lights, so I put these on the night that I was filming. They just get such a kick out of them, and they are so fun and make it more festive for Halloween. The view from the front porch looks good too. All the pumpkins make it look just so much more festive out here, and I love how they look all lined up along with the other fall decor. You can see that I worked in all of our pumpkins from our pumpkin patch into various nooks and crannies here, so they're kind of on every surface. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you love hearing about our pumpkin harvest and our fall and Halloween front porch. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Also, I will have a blog post up on our fall and Halloween front porch, and I will leave a link to that in the description below at sugarmaplefarmhouse.com. Also, if you have not subscribed to our channel, I would love to have you, so please subscribe. I cook recipes, I garden, do DIYs, house stuff, farm stuff, a little bit of everything. So if you like a little bit of everything, I'd love to have you join us. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.